Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Zooty Pickups. In today's video, we'll be talking about the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent and how it stacks up against its older brother, the Nike Vaporfly 4%, and overall how this shoe is for, more novice slash hobbyist runners. So a little bit about the Vaporfly Next Percent. This shoe came out July 11th of 2019 for a retail price of $250. This shoe came out as the latest addition to the Vaporfly family of shoes, the first shoe being this Vaporfly 4%. So the Vaporfly family was born kind of in conjunction with Nike's Breaking 2 project. Essentially what that was Nike's effort to break the 2-hour marathon wall. They tapped elite marathoner Eliud Kipchoge, and they got really close. I think he was only like 20 something seconds off to smashing that 2-hour record, but they just missed it. I think he only missed the time by 20 something seconds. He was extremely close. But the takeaway from that entire thing, well, anyway, what Nike marketing wants you to take away was that the Vaporfly makes you faster. Exactly how much faster? 4% faster, and that's why the name of the shoe was called the Vaporfly 4%. It was supposed to give you a 4% increase in running economy. So now with the new entry into the Vaporfly series, why is it not called the Vaporfly 5% then? Apparently when they did the tests, the running economy increase wasn't a full 1%. So I guess they thought it'd be weird to call it like the Vaporfly 4.72% or something like that. So they just called it the Vaporfly Next Percent. So I think that brings us nicely to the next part of the video that I want to talk about, which basically is, will this shoe make me run 4% or whatever 5% faster, even if I'm not an expert runner? And I've already seen a couple of YouTube reviews of this shoe already from people that are way faster than I am and from people that can run way longer than I can. And they all say that this shoe, in order to tap into the potential of this shoe, you have to be running quite fast, like, maybe like faster than a 7-minute mile or something like that. So I kind of wanted to touch on it from a more hobbyist slash, like casual runner perspective. For reference, I think like a 8:30-minute mile for me is pretty fast, and I rarely run more than 3 miles. So that's where I'm coming from. Like running 3 miles like once or twice a week at 8:30-minute mile pace. So that's kind of where I am. So that's definitely not really fast, and I think that brings a different perspective to this shoe. So before I talk about the performance aspect of the shoe, I just kind of wanted to go over all the features of the shoe first, all the technical things. However, if you just want to jump to the performance part of the overview, I will leave the timestamp in the description down below so you can just skip ahead. So yeah, let's talk about the features and pretty much how it differs from the big brother Vaporfly 4% first of all. So starting out with the upper saw a very drastic change. The material of the upper is totally different. It's what they call vapor weave. So when I just kind of saw this, I thought it looked like stretch weave. Stretch weave was that translucent material that we saw on the Zoomfly SPs from like last year and 2 years ago. And like at first glance, it looks very similar. It's that same kind of like translucent, plasticky feeling material. But upon actually like putting the shoes on and feeling them, I can say that the vapor weave is a thinner, more stretchier, and more breathable version of stretch weave. So as you can see, like the vapor weave like wrinkles a lot more, and it kind of like behaves more like fabric would versus the stretch weave, which kind of feels more plasticky and acts more like a plastic. So a lot of that has to do with the enhanced stretchiness and the thinness of the vapor weave. One of the main complaints apparently for the Vaporfly 4%, As you can see, it just had a normal engineered mesh upper, and the later version had the fly knit upper, was that it retained moisture too much. So they went ahead and changed to this vapor weave, kind of like a more techie material to circumvent that issue. And I think it works well. The shoe breathes really well and it stretches and feels great. So I'm very happy with the upper upgrade. Another big change that they made was here on the inside of the heel. As you can see on the Vaporfly 4%, you have some heel padding, but it's kind of like embedded inside the micro suede material on the interior of the shoe. The heel padding here on the next percents is pretty much exposed and a lot more aggressive, so it definitely helps you with that heel slippage a lot. I think there was a lot of complaints about heel slippage in the 4%, so they have remedied that issue as well. Moving to the midfoot of the upper, one thing I would like to point out is that on the Vaporfly Next Percent, there is no sort of cage. There's no fly wire, there's no internal cage mechanism, there's nothing. It's just the vapor weave fabric holding the shoe together. So there's really nothing to give you any sort of midfoot support, which is, I guess they did it to kind of cut down on the weight, and they definitely made the shoe a little bit lighter. The Vaporfly 4% had an internal cage system, as did like the Zoomfly SPs and the normal Zoomflies. They all had some sort of internal cage system, but they totally did away with it on the Vaporfly Next Percents. And running in them, I honestly really didn't feel like they were unstable or anything like that. So I think that's fine. So while we're in the midfoot section, I'd like to touch on the tongue. As you can see, the tongue is a little bit offset. It's a little bit diagonal. It's asymmetric tongue. And apparently they did that to kind of avoid pressure on the top of your foot when you really cinch down your laces. There's a lot of important blood vessels on the top of your foot, so they wanted to not cut off circulation when you like really cinch your laces down, so they kind of moved the tongue to the side. Like, do I notice any difference really versus like a normal tongue? Not honestly, not really, but I think it definitely looks a little cooler to have that asymmetric tongue. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the upper, that's pretty much it. I think those are all the major differences. Let's move on to the midsole, because I think that's where like the biggest differences are in between the two shoes. So as you can see here, the midsole on the Vaporfly Next Percents are fatter than the midsoles on the Vaporfly 4%. So you can see that there's a lot more ZoomX foam here on the heel, especially if I just hold the heels side by side, you can see that the Vaporfly Next Percent definitely has a little more ZoomX on the front of the on the forefoot area as well. You can see 15% more ZoomX foam on the Vaporfly Next Percents to be exact. So they've managed to somehow get more foam in here. The midsole design for the Vaporfly Next Percent actually just comes straight from the Vaporfly Elites. The Vaporfly Elites were like kind of like not available to the public. They were kind of like the step up version of the 4%, only available to Nike athletes. I think they were like custom made for the athletes. And those are the shoes that Eliud Kipchoge actually did the Breaking 2 challenge in, not the 4%, but the Vaporfly Elites. So you can see that the Vaporfly Next Percent kind of took a lot of design inspiration from that midsole. It has those like curvy lines and that more pronounced kind of little heel point right here. So yeah, I mean, it definitely looks better, I think, and it definitely fits a lot more ZoomX onto the bottom of the forefoot. So the designers that worked on the Next Percent said that they wanted to put more ZoomX here on the forefoot section because regardless of where you're striking, whether you're a forefoot striker or a heel striker, when you're lifting off with your toes. And the more ZoomX here under your forefoot means that you have that extra energy return from the ZoomX foam. So they've increased the amount of ZoomX right here on the forefoot, but there's more ZoomX pretty much all over the midsole. So it definitely feels nicer. It feels a little more cushier. Moving to the outsole, you can see that there have been some more changes to the outsole here. The main complaint with the Vaporfly 4% outsole was that it was too slippery. The traction was not that good. And just running my finger along this rubber surface, I totally agree. There's really almost no traction on this rubber. So they changed the tread to this more kind of like rugged, aggressive tread here. They've added these two kind of rubber pods to the heel as well. And I mean, not much to say about it. The traction is indeed a little bit better. So I definitely prefer this outsole over the 4% outsole. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it when it comes to the features. Those are kind of like all the major changes. I mean, overall, I mean, the shoe, I think, looks really great too. I mean, you can't kind of downplay the effects of aesthetics in a shoe. This shoe looks great. I think one of the main things that I like about the design is this iridescent kind of ink that they use for the swooshes. I mean, you can't really see it. I thought it was black, but it is kind of like glittery and shiny. They have like a swoosh here. They have a big swoosh here on the medial side, and they also have an iridescent swoosh here on the heel as well. So they've managed to sneak a lot of swooshes in there. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think it definitely is a super cool looking shoe. So yeah, I mean, now that we got all the functions and features out of the way, let's talk about the performance of the shoe and basically how it feels like to run in it as kind of like a novice hobbyist runner. Does the shoe make me run faster? That's the question I guess everyone wants answered. And the answer is yes, it kind of does. So a lot of the big YouTubers, a lot of the big reviews are saying that you need to run fast in order to take full advantage of the shoe. And I totally agree with that, but the key word is full advantage. Like, even if you're not running fast, you can take some advantage of the shoe. And that's like something a lot of people don't really talk about, I think. The thing is, I mean, I've ran in this shoe and I've ran in my other kind of like normal running shoes. I have Saucony Kinvara 9s, which are just kind of like, it's kind of like a normal minimal tech neutral running shoe that I've been using for the last year. And you know, comparing my times with the Saucony and this, the times with this are a little bit faster, like just for my 3-mile runs. And I think there's two major contributing factors here. Factor number one, the biggest factor, is the placebo effect. I'm not gonna lie, like when you wear this shoe and it's like supposed to be a fast shoe or whatever, you run with it, you like tend to run faster. It's just because in your mind you think you're gonna run faster, you actually run faster. And like a lot of people downplay this, but running is super mental in my opinion. Like a lot of it is in your mind. So if you can trick your mind into running faster and you actually run faster, like why not? The shoe worked. So that's the biggest factor in my opinion. So factor number two, the real factor is basically the shape of the shoe and the carbon plate. So this shoe has like a carbon plate sandwiched in between the Zoom X foam here. And there is quite a bit of a heel offset here, at 8 millimeters to be exact. The Vaporfly 4%, the previous generation, had an 11 millimeter offset. They reduced that to 8 millimeters this year, but that's still pretty aggressive. And that basically means that your heel is 8 millimeters higher than your forefoot, your toes. So you're kind of like, your foot is kind of slanted forward when you're wearing this shoe. And that kind of sets you up in this kind of aggressive gait stance. And what that does is during your gait, it just kind of automatically rolls you onto the carbon plate, which bounces you forward. So it kind of guides you onto that carbon plate, giving you that propulsion when you lift off from your forefoot. And even if you're not running fast, like this happens, like even when you're running your 8-minute, 9-minute mile paces, you can feel this happening because that's just how physics and gravity works. I mean, honestly, even when I'm like walking in this, I can feel a little bounce when I kind of step forward. So it definitely helps. Like when I'm running, it pushes me forward a little bit, like a little spring in my step. And I think that also contributes to a faster running speed. So yeah, does it make me faster? I think it does. I mean, is it kind of bogus? Like a little bit, yeah. But I mean, what can I say? The numbers on my Garmin GPS do not lie. I definitely get faster numbers with this shoe. So there it is. Finally, I want to talk about fit and comfort of the shoe. So I normally wear a size 13 in casual shoes and a size 14 in running shoes because I want that extra room for my toes to spread out when I hit the ground because I'm a forefoot striker. These shoes, unfortunately, they did not make a size 14. 13 was the biggest ones that they sold in the United States. So I had to squeeze into a 13. However, I mean, it works. The the Vapor Weave upper is way more stretchier than stretch weave, so I didn't have to go a full size up. For the stretch weave shoes, I had to go a full size up. But since this is more stretchier, it does kind of work. However, I would recommend, if you can, to go half a size up because, I mean, if I could, I would have gotten a 13.5 if they made one, but unfortunately they don't. So I recommend going half a size up with this shoe. Comfort, this shoe is really comfortable. The Zoom X is an incredibly comfortable, soft, cushy foam, and the Vapor Weave it's a pretty comfortable upper. It breathes well, it stretches, so I think it's a pretty comfortable shoe to wear. Just like, not even when you're running. I mean, you could wear this casually and be totally fine because it's like a pretty sick looking shoe. It's very comfortable. There's no reason you can't wear this casually. The carbon fiber plate, does it bother me when I'm wearing it casually? I mean, not really. It's just kind of like, you know, gives me a nice spring in my step, like when I'm walking around the office. So, I mean, I guess that's a good thing, right? So yeah, I think all in all, this is a pretty sick running shoe. Is the shoe worth $250 for someone that isn't really going to utilize it to its full extent, like to get that extra 4% or 5% out of it? I mean, you're going to have to be the judge of that. I personally, you know, got the shoe because I like shoes, and, you know, any excuse to get a new pair of shoes is good enough for me. So that's why I got mine. And the fact that it does give me a little bit of a speed boost is definitely a bonus. But I think if it's worth it to you, you should definitely get yourself a pair. So yeah, let me throw these on foot so you guys can see what they look like. And once again, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next one. Bye.